Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and in this video I would like to show you the top 5 most amazing mating attacks conducted by Magnus Carlsen. A lot of people will relate his playing style to that kind of type in which he's trying to squeeze a slightly better endgame, superb technique and so on, but a lot of people kind of underestimated him when Magnus is on the attack. He is a fantastic calculator, and when given the chance he is ruthless. I would like to start with an example when he was only 12 years old. Look, in this position, he's playing with the white pieces against Harestad, and he is doing fantastically. All his pieces are wonderfully placed looking at the black king. And look what he played now. He played here the move knight h5. The knight is landing on a square which had been covered by a pawn on g6. Black has of course a lot of moves, but the knight should be taken because, for instance, if you would take the knight on h6, there is knight takes f6 with a discovered check. King g7, and now we take with our bishop on g5, another piece joining the attack. We are threatening now to give mate on h7. Black can only stop the mating threat here with h5, but then there is knight takes h5 check, g takes h5, queen takes h5. And with so many mating threats, queen h7, maybe rook f7, queen f7, so many mating threats against such an exposed king, that's leading to mate for sure. So black instead decided to take the other knight, g takes h5. Looks as if everything is still under control, but do you see what Magnus had seen here? Well, he played the move queen takes g5. What an amazing shot, sacrificing the queen. The queen got to be taken, but then there is rook f7 check as the knight protects the rook. Whatever black does, only two options, king takes h6, which was played, runs into rook takes h7, and look at that light squared bishop protecting the rook and preventing the king from coming to g6. If you go to h8, well, there is this move rook takes h7 with checkmate as well. So you see, only at the age of 12 he could launch such powerful attacks. Let's go to the second example. Here we are, Magnus, only 13 years old, making his debut in the Wijk aan Zee C group, playing against very strong grandmaster Sipke Ernst, and who is actually a fellow countryman and colleague trainer. This is from a Caro-Kann position. Magnus playing with the white pieces. What do you think of the position? Magnus knew what he wanted to do. Look, this is going to be incredible. He played here this move knight to g6. Once again, landing with a knight on a square where it can just be captured by the opponent's pawn. And now, fortunately for us, black decided to take, but this was actually not a good move. Black should probably have defended here with rook fe8, just sidestepping the threat, allowing white to capture on e7 and then take on c5. In such position, open position, the bishop is a better piece than the knight, so white is better anyway. But let's have a look what happened. F takes g6 on the board, allowing white to take with the queen on e6. Check, hitting the bishop at the same time. If you block with your rook now, there's h takes g6 with a threat of winning the rook back. If you move the king to h7, then there's h takes g6 with check. If you do recapture with the king, of course you can simply recapture on e7, retaining a massive advantage. But even better here is this beautiful rook lift, rook d3, when the rook is about to swing over to g3 and deliver checkmate. For that reason, instead of king h7, Sipke Ernst played here the move king h8, but h takes g6 was played anyway. White is a piece down, but ready to sacrifice on h6 and open up the files so that its strongest pieces, the queen and rook, are able to attack the black king. And keep in mind, this bishop is still hanging, so black decided here to play the move knight g8, protecting the bishop on e7, protecting the pawn on h6, and at the same time threatening the bishop with the rook. But Magnus sacrificed one piece. Once you say A, you have to do B as well. Bishop takes h6, another huge sacrifice. G takes h6. What is white's idea? Looks like he's two pieces down and the attack is coming to an end. No way. Rook takes h6. Another fantastic rook sacrifice. Black has to capture with a knight, because if the king goes away, there's rook h7 with checkmate. After knight takes h6, there's queen takes e7, And despite being a rook and a knight down, white has a massive mating attack. Queen h7 is the main threat. The only way to deal with that here is to play knight f7 to close the 7th rank. But now g takes f7, white regains at least a bit of material and is now threatening to go queen f6, check, followed by rook h1 when the king has been caught in the mating net. King g7 was played, and now rook d3, fantastic move. The rook is about to come g3 once again, and very important that Magnus is not only attacking, he had seen from afar that the queen on e7 still covers a potential mating threat on e1, so black is not able to give a check there. Black played here the move rook d6, trying to bring a defender to the king, and of course that rook cannot be taken because of that idea of queen e1. Black had to face here the move rook g3 check, but his idea was to go rook g6. Once again, everything seems to be under control, but Magnus had been calculating very precisely. Play the move queen e5 check. The rook cannot block because the rook is pinned, so the king got a move. If the king goes to h7, there is queen h5 check, attacking the rook as well. If the rook blocks, we have queen f5. After king h8, there is queen e5 check. The king can only come back to h7, and that is mate on g7. In the game there followed king takes f7, but now after queen f5, white is going to regain all the material. In the game black decided to allow Magnus to give a beautiful checkmate. He played here the move rook f6, but now after queen d7 it's checkmate as the king cannot return to the g file. After other moves, let's say you would have played king g7, there's queen takes g6, king h8 and rook h3. The only other move here is king e7, but then we have rook e3 check, king d8, and now queen takes f8 with check, king c7. The king is not safe at all. At least there is queen f7 with check, and on the next move we can take the rook. It's game over. White is a rook up, and still it will be mate in a couple of moves. Incredible performance of such a little kid who almost couldn't cross his head above the table. Let's go to the next example. It's Magnus, who is only 14 years old, against I am Atle Grün. White has sacrificed one pawn, but all his pieces are wonderfully placed. Very active. Look at his bishops and the knight in the center, the queen on e4. While black's pieces, most of them, they are still stuck on their initial squares and the king is in the middle still. What to do when the king is in the middle? We are opening up the center. And if that costs material, who cares? It's all about going after that black king. Knight takes f7 was played here. Incredible move. Black could still defend here with queen takes f7. Looks as if everything is under control, but white is playing the move f5. Fantastic idea with the point that the rook is now getting included into the attack as well. The pawn is pinned. Look, it's because of the queen on e4, but also the bishop on c4, which keeps an eye on that queen on f7. Black thought, I need to move my queen away. But now there is bishop takes e6, so that the e-file is opened. And now you see black's king is lacking the support from its own pawns. That's why we have to open the center and try to reach the opponent's king. Black played here knight e7. And now there are potential discovered checks with the bishop. But the nicest move here is f6, so that white is about to open more files so that the other pieces are able to join the attack. The king cannot go away. It's not allowed to castle here. Black played knight takes f6, but look, rook takes f6. What an incredible sacrifice. The point is that if g takes f6, now we have a favorable discovered check with our bishop, threatening the queen, and that's time to resign. In the game instead, they followed the move queen takes h4, hoping that maybe after queen takes h4, g takes f6, there could be a way to play on. But no way. Instead of grabbing the queen, Magnus decides to take a pawn on c6 with check. We don't care about material, we think about mate only. King e7, and now rook f7 played. After king takes e6, there was a beautiful mating pattern with queen c4, as the queen gives check, protects the rook indirectly, black is not allowed to take it, and the rook prevents the king from going anywhere. Black could still have played the move king d8, but that is not really gonna help him at all. Rook d7 is probably the simplest move here, so that after bishop takes d7, it's queen takes d7 with checkmate, as the bishop defends the queen. If you would play king e8 instead, then we have bishop f7, and after king f8, queen takes d6, the king cannot go anywhere, queen e7 runs into queen takes e7. Amazing game, right? The kid was only 14 years old at this time, but able to outplay very experienced players. We go to the fourth example, and in this position, played in 2011, Magnus was already 20 years old. Playing in the Tata Steel Masters tournament, he was rated 2800 plus, playing against Hikaru Nakamura. And look, we have a very sharp Sicilian with opposite castled kings. When you have opposite castled kings, the main idea is trying to build up an attack, try to open the files. But for the moment, that black king is still relatively well guarded by its own pawns. But not for long. Look what happened. There followed the move bishop takes h6. So this is the first step. We remove that very important defender, the pawn on h6. If you would ignore the bishop, let's say you take the knight on d4, there is something like bishop e3, attacking the queen. If the queen goes away, a very typical attacking motive is rook h8 check, forcing the king to go to the h-file, and then it's queen h3, king g8, queen h7. You see that pawn on g6 is so important. So we cannot really allow white to do whatever he wants on the h-file. G takes h6 has been played. But now, g7, it's the next move. We are trying to force black to capture the pawn. If you do take, there is knight f5, threatening mate on g7. If you protect the bishop, only chance, there is knight takes h6. And look at these three pieces. They are standing on the f, g, and h file. The black king cannot go anywhere. The knight cannot be taken as the bishop is pinned. This is dead lost. It will be made in a move or two or so. In the game there followed bishop e7. But now there is rook takes h6 and white threatens to give mate on h8 thanks to the pawn on g7 which covers that square. So black played the only move, knight f7, which does attack the rook and at the same time it controls the h8 square. But now Magnus, look what he did. He played here the move queen g6, threatening an alternative mating idea with queen h7. Black can only take the rook, knight takes h6 and now queen takes h6 and now it's the queen which threatens to give mate there. There's no way to protect that square. You cannot take the knight for the same reason and black needs to find a way to come up with an escape for the king. But that rook on the f-file prevents the king from escaping. So the only chance here is bishop f6. But now we don't capture the bishop. Look what we do. We play the move queen h8, allowing the king to come to f7. But then beautiful sacrifice. We are giving up that g-pawn. We promote it to a second queen with check. Queen gotta be taken. And now after queen takes f6, king e8, it's rook e1, check. And it was time to resign here, because the king cannot escape. If the king goes to d7, it's queen e7 with checkmate and the knight prevents the king from coming to c6. The only way you can prolong the battle here is with queen e5. But you give up the queen after rook takes e5, d takes e5. We have queen e6 check with a double attack on the two rooks and check at the same time as well. Black cannot avoid the loss of a rook. What an amazing attack. So many typical attacking ideas implemented in just one game. Now, let's go to the next example. And it's my final example, but definitely this is my favorite one. This is played on Magnus, his 26th birthday. And not just a random game, it was the final of the World Championship match against Sergei Karjakin. It was a tiebreak. Magnus was leading, but if he wins this game, he retained the World Champion title. He's playing with the white pieces again. And in this position, he's an exchange up and technically winning. But you can imagine how high the tension is at this point. He decided to take on f4, offering the exchange of queens, being ready for any sort of simplification. The tactical justification is as follows. If you do take the queen and rook takes f4, there's bishop g5, which sets up a pin on the two rooks. But he had seen, of course, there's first a check on c8, removing the first rook, and after king h7, there's rook f5, with a technically winning position for white. So, of course, black is not interested in trading off pieces. As a rule of thumb, when you're material down, you would like to keep pieces on the board. And, of course, black also understands there's a counter possibility against the white king. So he instead played here the move rook a2 check. The king goes into the corner, but now there is queen f2, setting up a huge mating threat on g2. How is white going to cope with it? Well, he could try to bring a rook to the g-file and play passively, but Magnus had seen there's something better. He went rook c8 check, going for the attack, but it needs to be mate, as otherwise there will be additional mating threats like rook a1 or queen f1, and the white king is getting checkmated. First of all, there is the move bishop f8, but I'm sure that Magnus would have taken now on f8 with the rook. And after king takes f7, rook takes f7, it's leading to mate. If the king goes into the right corner, it is checkmate in a few moves. Look like this. If the king goes the other way, the queen and rook are a powerful duo, and just with a bunch of checks, it's leading to mate as well. King d7, queen f5, king c6, rook c8, king to b7, queen d7 check, still keeping the rook defended, and now after king a6, it's rook a8 with checkmate. The king cannot go there as the queen covers the b5 square. We return to the game, but this all had to be calculated by Magnus. Karjakin played here the move king h7, believing that all sorts of checks are covered, and look, there is still queen g2, there is still rook a1, black is about to win. But can you see the key move which ensured that Magnus retained the World Championship title? He played here an amazing shot, which is the move, queen h6. Fantastic idea. A queen sacrifice to retain your title. It cannot be nicer than that. The point is that if you do take with the pawn, there is rook takes f7 with checkmate. The rooks are covering the 7th and 8th rank and are preventing the king from going to g6. And the other justification is seen in the line that after king takes h6, now we have a beautiful mate with the rook on h8. The king cannot go anywhere. The rooks are depriving the king from any available square. And of course the pawn on h5 is quite useful too, so that the king cannot go to g6. I thought these were my 5 favorite examples of Magnus delivering a decisive mating attack. Do you agree with my choice, or do you think I missed out? There were maybe some other examples which I should have included in my top 5. Well, we can always extend the list, and if you feel like, well, let's get more nice examples of Magnus, I'm happy to cover them also on the channel. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you soon back. Bye bye.